Okay, 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 okay. Hello, 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 hello. This video is going to be very long, so I'm gonna try and not take forever to talk about each individual pedal. But this video will be me yapping, yapping about every pedal I've ever owned over the past 5 years, which is nearly almost 40 fucking pedals, which is ridiculous. I used to have a problem. But yeah, I'm very excited, so let's just start. I'm also gonna be trying to incorporate some triggers when I can. But yeah, so let's go. So I'm gonna go category by category, and the first category of pedals is going to be dirt, which includes overdrive, distortion, and fuzz pedals. So the EQD Dunes, which is the pedal you see on the screen right now, is one of the earlier pedals I owned, and it's modeled after a tube screamer pedal. But the reason I did not want to get a blues driver or a traditional tube screamer is because there's a lot of, old white guys who play blues guitar who demo pedals on YouTube, which is really fucking annoying. And so my association with a lot of those tube screamer and blues driver kind of pedals is that kind of music. But I think when I was doing research, I randomly read somewhere that Remo Drive used the Palisades side of the drive section of the Palisades pedal, which is essentially the Dunes pedal, to record the greatest hits. And I thought that was interesting, so I thought I would give it a try, because in the middle of the pedal, that switch, let's see if this window captures my mouse. It doesn't. Wow. That switch at the top of the pedal, in the middle, it sets the voicing of the pedal to none, instead of a silicon or MOSFET style clipping sound, which means it's a very clean boost overdrive, which I really liked. You could also try the OCD, which is another overdrive, but I held on to this pedal for nearly 4 years. I only recently got rid of it because I stopped playing guitar, and now I play mainly bass. But if I were to rebuild my guitar pedal board, this is definitely going back on there. So let's move on. Next we have the Distortion DS1, which I actually still have. It is the black colorway from Taiwan, and this is actually the very first pedal I ever owned. My dad bought it for me when I was in high school still. But yeah, back then when I was in high school, I was not that great of a guitar player, but him getting me a guitar pedal definitely opened my eyes up to other parts of audio gear. So I've always been very thankful for that. In terms of how much I didn't really use this pedal that often, to be honest, once I started collecting pedals, because it's a little flat, but it's still a very classic pedal. This is a lot of people's very first pedals, and I would never get rid of it because it was a gift from my dad. So yeah, love you. Next pedal we have the Boss Metal Zone MT2, and I actually got this as a gift as well from my uncle, maybe a year or two after I got the DS1. And I actually still have the Metal Zone, my guitars, and the band in Violet is actually, they're actually borrowing it right now, and I like it for guitar because it can get pretty crazy, because it has that middle second knob from right, you can tune the middle frequency and get a really jangly sound. And so, I mean, I wouldn't really use it because I'm not a fan of super crazy distorted tones, but it's definitely something worth trying if you're interested in something like that, like crazy push distortion tones. So next we have, so the bass overdrive ODB3, which is on my bass pedal board right now. I talked about it in my previous video, but you know, it has that balance knob on it where you can blend between your dry signal and your overdriven signal, which is very handy in preserving the low end of your sound. But yeah, since I just showed all of the Boss pedals I've ever owned, let me do some brief tapping sounds on the Boss box. Okay, we gotta move on because this video is gonna be way too fucking long. Okay, so finally, I believe we have, yep. So, oh man, in post, I'll edit in a picture of the Doom Bloom, the Fuzzhugger Doom Bloom, but I really liked this fuzz pedal. But I remember when I was a little short on cash, I was thinking about getting into DIYing pedals, so I ordered parts and a PCB, and you can go online and find some circuit boards and part listings for pedals that are out there. So I built a copy of the Doom Bloom. This was back in 2019, and I actually built 2 copies, and I sent one to 6 in the band Morning Doom. Morning Doom. And I really like Morning Doom. I remember I was messaging 6 about their guitar pedal board and like what kind of sound they were going towards, and I asked them if they have any interest in I think they eventually got the Swollen Pickle pedal. I'll edit that in as well. But I sent them a copy of the Doom Bloom pedal, and as you can see, I named it the Morning Doom on there. So that was pretty cool. It's if you want to get into building guitar pedals, it's actually insanely easy and pretty cost effective if you already have the supplies to do so, in terms of like, a soldering iron and all that shit. And you get lots and lots of resistors and capacitors when you order them, so you can build copies for pretty cheap. And so I actually still have mine. It looks a little different than 6's, but yeah. Okay, moving on, because we got a speed run. Come on, girl. Okay, moving on to modulation pedals now. Modulation. The Mr. Black chorus was the first chorus pedal I got, and I immediately returned it because I did not like the fact that a lot of chorus pedals take away the low end from your guitar, and I really valued the bottom end of my guitar's tone for a very long time. So when I got this, I was like, oh no, mama, you gotta go. Even though it had a mix knob, like, it it wasn't enough for me, so I got it. And also, I think a lot of choruses can sound pretty cheesy, and a tone that is squashed when your highs are a little pronounced and your lows are taken out. I just hated that sound, so I returned this pretty fast. And then I got, oh girl, we gotta go back. This is the next chorus pedal I got. This is the Caroline Guitar Company Somersault, and I love this pedal. This, if I were to rebuild my guitar board again, this would go back on, because from all the chorus pedals I've tried, this is the perfect amount of, you can crank it to get crazy. It can be a lo-fi and subtle chorus. It can get very wide, and also it preserves the bottom end. A good way to do research if you are trying to compare a ton of pedals and you're not sure which one you want, you can look up on YouTube a guitar pedal shoot out. A guitar pedal shootout is a video where they play the same guitar line, but they A/B a bunch of different pedals to see what each pedal will do. And what I found throughout shootouts and then actually trying this pedal myself is that it preserves a lot of the character that I wanted to maintain for my clean tone. So yeah, this is the I had this pedal for also about 4 years, and I remember I traded this away and I immediately regretted it, and then I got it back, and then I sold it again, and I've always, I got it back again, so I've had this pedal probably 3 times. I've always come back to it, so I would definitely recommend this pedal if you were looking into getting into a West Coast kind of chorusy tone. So let's move forward to the next, this one. This is the next chorus pedal. Motherfucker, zoom in, come on. Okay, there we go. This is the next chorus pedal that I had. It was the Pine Box Sirens. And I'm gonna be honest, I'm putting my hands up, I'm caught, you caught me. I literally only got this pedal because it's pink and blue. And if you know something about me, you know I like pink and blue. Not for any particular reason or anything, but for a particular reason. But anyways, when I got this pedal, I immediately regretted it. I was like, I'm smoking crack, brother. I'm smoking crack, brother. Like, did I really trade for a pedal just for the color? And this is the only time I've ever done that. I immediately regretted it, and I went to go back to the somersault again. But if you go on the guitar pedal subreddit, or if you're ever in a guitar pedal Discord, people actually do care about the aesthetics of their guitar pedal board. For some reason, I mean, why do you care about the outfits you wear? You gotta make sure your shit looks swagged up. So, in terms of the actual sound of this pedal, I didn't really like it. It cut out low end. It was a little too warbly for me. It did also have a drive section on the left. You can see that there's a secondary foot switch to turn on drive, but I didn't really care for the drive because I was set on my dunes, the EQD dunes that we talked about earlier. So let's move forward. So the next section of modulation we have is phaser pedals. Phaser. It's not a phase, Mom. So this is the first phaser pedal I got, which is probably around like 2019, and I actually really like this pedal. This is the only phaser pedal. Like, if you asked me today for any phaser recommendation, I would probably only recommend the Grand Orbiter, because I love the fact that the rate knob would go so freaking slow, and it didn't sound corny to me. Like, I love the sound of this, but eventually I got rid of it and I stopped using phaser pedals and other types of modulation because I wanted to dial back my tone to being a lot more clean and not having to depend on like outlandish effects. But in terms of phasers, this was probably my favorite I've ever had. This is the next phaser I had. It was the Apollo Solid FX phaser, and I mean, there's not really much I could say about it. I probably only had this for like a month. It did have access to a myriad of different waveforms that you could cycle through, which I thought was pretty cool, but I'd rather have something that was subtle. So, this pedal was not subtle, which is cool if you want that, but I didn't really like it, so I got rid of it. It was nice that it had this tap tempo foot switch, so you could set the rate of your phasing just by tapping on there, which is very, 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 very useful, very useful, very useful. But, I got rid of it. So, next. Oh, girl. Okay. So now, we're moving on to time-based effects. And this is the first delay pedal that I ever had. And, oh man, it was great. I love this thing. It had a modulation section, so this was basically like a chorus, like a mini chorus that could go between sine wave or square wave, which was interesting, but I never really used the modulation section of this pedal. It also had a fuzz knob in the middle, but I didn't really use that because I had a dirt section I was set on with the tunes, as we mentioned before. So I was mainly using it because the delay on it sounded really, really, really cool. So let's talk about why it sounded cool. So the reason I liked the sound of this delay pedal is because it used the BT2399 delay chip, which is a bucket brigade style delay. And if you see here, it goes up to 1000 ms, and when you crank the delay time on a BT2399 style delay pedal like the Echo Dream 2, the signal, when it gets to those high ranges, starts to crackle, and it sounds like thunder and lightning. And I freaking loved how it sounded. Like, oh man, I hear that noise in my dreams. It sounds like, it's so cool. It's so cool. So I held on to this pedal for a while, maybe like 2 or 3 years. And the reason I originally got into this pedal was because there are also other pedals that use the BT2399 delay chip, but this was one of the more, accessible ones to me at the time. And let's talk about the mother of the Echo Dream 2 with the BT239 delay chip. The Echo, the Greater. Oh my god, I'm crying looking at this so beautiful. So, these are two different companies, of course, but the reason I got into these style delay chip pedals is because I found this one originally, and this one can crank the delay time even further than 1000 ms. I don't even know what the max is. It's probably like 3400, which is ridiculous. But oh man, yeah. So this was before. This is the second edition. I guess I'll edit in what the first editions of these Echo Degraders look like. But this pedal was out of my, budget at the time when I first got it. So I was like, what are the other delay chip options for this? But I remember I got this after maybe three or 4 years after being into guitar pedals, and for some reason the spark just wasn't there anymore. Even though I had achieved my dream of getting my hands on this pedal after such a long time, I just wasn't into that style of delay anymore because I was moving towards a cleaner sound. And that happens, it happens. There's basically two schools of philosophy when it comes to guitar pedals, in my opinion. There's one school where you have always on pedals, and then you have the other school, which is pedals that you are knob tweaking. So, when you're playing guitar, you can't use your hands to turn the knobs, which is why it's good to have some that, are always on. But pedals can be instruments as well. They can create crazy soundscapes and ambient music. So this is definitely one of those pedals where it was more for knob tweaking, but I was kind of past that stage in my career, and I wanted to focus on actually getting better at my instrument. So, when I got this, I was like, fuck it, I guess I'll sell it. Which is kind of sad, but I'm happy I was able to play with it for a little bit at least. So, let's move on. And then, I guess this is technically more of a recent one I had. I probably had this like 2 years ago. This is a pitch delay pedal, the Red Panda Particle. The Red Panda Particle is a pitch delay pedal, which basically means when you hear the repeats of the delay signal, it can pitch it up or down, or it can reverse it, it can spread it out, it can detune it, it can randomize what it does, it can do a lot of different stuff. And I'm gonna be honest, when I got this pedal, it was probably around the peak of my gear addiction. I probably had I don't even know, 14, which was terrible, it was just so much money in pedals on my pedal board. I was like, what the fuck am I doing, But I was having fun. And the good thing about having a gear addiction, at least in audio, is that you can resell them for a large amount of their original worth. So I always made sure to take care of them and keep them in pristine condition. That way, if I'm bored of a $300 pedal, I want to get my fucking money back. So yeah, let's move on. So this is the most recent delay pedal I had. This is just some $50 garbage tap delay pedal. But the reason I wanted it was because at the beginning of 2024, when I was working on a demo to send to some people, I wanted to be able to play that demo live as well. And in one of the songs, there's a breakdown where, I needed to be able to have a delay on, and in order to have it accurate, I needed to have a tap function. So I traded someone for this pedal. I mean, it's okay. It's nothing really special, but I still have it. Actually, wait, no, I think I actually traded it. Yeah, I traded this away. Yeah, nothing special. Whatever. It did its job. But let's move on. Oh yeah, so I had this only for a little bit as well, somewhere in like 2022 or some shit. I don't even know. It's just a delay and reverb pedal by Earthquaker Devices, the Dispatch Master. And I'm gonna be honest, it sounded extremely clean. Like, if I closed my eyes and listened to this, I'd be like, this sounds like a rack reverb. Like, it sounds expensive, even though it's fairly affordable. And it's very simple too, only 4 knobs, and one of them is a mix knob, so it was extremely clean. But, you know, I got rid of it pretty fast because I wanted something that was a bit more eclectic. And so, let's move on to something a bit more eclectic. Oh wow. Okay, I thought I was gonna go to a different one, but this is actually the very first reverb pedal I ever owned. I also got this back in 2019. And it's actually pretty good. If you're involved in the pedal community, you've probably heard a lot of good things about this. But this was the Dark Star by OBENE, Old Blood Noise Endeavors. And one of the reverb algorithms, I know the picture is kind of compressed, but if you turn it to the down position, it says crush. So the reverb tail would actually be bit crushed, and people loved that. This was like one of the earlier reverb pedals that could do that. And yeah, I liked it for a while. I had no complaints about this. But if we go to the next slide, you'll see why I switched. The amount of psychological damage that this pedal has done to the guitar pedal community is fucking insane. This is the Keeley Loomer. And if you go on YouTube and you type in, oh, what should I buy for a shoegaze guitar pedal board? This is probably one of the first results. And when I first got into making a guitar pedal board, I really wanted to make a shoegaze pedal board, so I was like, oh fuck, this is a quintessential item. Nowadays, I don't play shoegaze anymore. Honestly, I don't really listen to shoegaze that much anymore. I'm mainly playing and listening to, like, post-hardcore and post-screamo, but this pedal has 2 sections. The right section, as you can see, is a fuzz section, and then the left side is a reverb section, and it has a focus algorithm, which is basically like a reverb / chorus, and then it has which also has an octave up shimmer, and then the reverse function. So reverse reverb is a very common effect in shoegaze music. It was it's made popular by My Bloody Valentine on that Yamaha rack. I'm not sure what that actual rack was called, but this pedal was literally modeled after My Bloody Valentine, and there's been numerous reissues. There's also been the Keeley Realizer Reverberator, which I'll put up on screen, which is literally just the reverb side of this pedal. And I remember I really wanted the Realizer, but originally people were reselling them for ridiculous prices. So yeah, maybe in another video I'll talk about the philosophy of getting, falling acquisition, but I think shoegaze is definitely a trap for people who want to buy a whole bunch of pedals, or at least that's what happened to me. But I learned my lesson, and the thing is, I actually did really enjoy the reverb on this pedal. I enjoyed it a lot. I mean, I held on to this thing for nearly 3 or 4 years. I didn't really use the fuzz side that much because it sounded a little uninspired to me. And I had other pedals, but if I were to just have this one capable of having a reverb and fuzz, you know, I'd be satisfied. Okay, let's move on. I think we're done with the reverb. Oh fuck, no, this is actually the last reverb pedal. So this is the AC Noises AMA. I'm pretty sure they're from France. But yeah, so this is just a reverb pedal that can also bit crush. And you can turn on or off the bit crush, which is really nice. But what's really neat about this is it has a resolution and sample rate. Knob, which was so nice. I mean, if you go to the OBN, Old Blood Noise, and Endeavor's Dark Star, you couldn't really control both of those. It was just one. But you know, this gave you more control over that style of sound. So I mean, I had this for maybe only a year, but I liked it. But I think after this was actually the last reverb pedal I owned. After this, I was like, you know what? I'm recording a lot through my through my interface and into my DAW. Why don't I just record clean more often and use DAW-based reverb? Because it gives me more control after, during the post-processing, section of production. So, yeah, I had no more reverb, no more physical reverb pedals after that. So, next, damn, okay, fuck, I be lying and shit, you know how it is. So this is actually I have this, I don't know why I put this under reverb in the slideshow, but, I mean, it does do reverb, but this is the Chase Plus audio mode. And as I mentioned in my pedalboard rig rundown, this is a collaboration between 3 different companies. It's a collaboration between Old Blood Noise Endeavors, which is this side, and then Drolo, which is this side, and then Chase Bliss is, the company that manufactures the whole thing. So, I guess I'll speed around talking about it again, but basically, the right side can do granular looping. The left side can do reverb, delay, octave, chorus, and then both of those sides can speak to each other and exchange signals. And then this clock knob controls the clock speed of the master signal. And then on top, you can see that red bar with those little things popping out. Those are dip switches that allows you to automate parameters that are on the pedal. So it's very, 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 very versatile. As I said before, I really wanted a one-stop shop for time-based effect and modulation. So that's the reason I have it on my board. Okay. Next, we're gonna get into some weird ones. This category going forward is basically just weird because these are all fucking weird. So this is the Randy's Revenge by Fairfield Circuitry. So this is a ring modulator, and I'm sure a lot of people are like, what the hell is a ring modulator? So basically what a ring modulator does in its simplest form is multiply the input signal by another, set factor, and then you get the output. So basically we send our input signal, multiply it by our frequency, and then that becomes our output. So if you see this switch here, it can go between LO and HI. So, for example, if we use LO, then we're basically telling the frequency to be in a range to turn our signal into a low frequency oscillator. And if you know anything about, signal generation and shit like that, a low frequency oscillator is very choppy, kind of like a helicopter. The signal will still be in a range where your brain is able to, distinguish between each individual hit. But, when you start to speed up those hits, it becomes a pitch. And when you have a pitch, you can tune that pitch. So that is the high section. It becomes a high frequency oscillator. So you can basically use the frequency knob to tune the ring modulator in conjunction with, the key you're playing in. And you get a very interesting bell-like resonance. It's kind of a complicated pedal to use, but it's kind of cool. So yeah, those are ring modulators, and this one is the Randy's Revenge. Okay, next up we have the Soundblocks Pro bass envelope filter. So I didn't really have this pedal for a long time because I got it when I first started playing in my post-hardcore band. And then you don't really hear squinkly, fucking wompy honky ass noises in post-hardcore. If I was playing in like a jazz band or in a funk band or a fusion band, then it would make sense for me to have this. But I remember when I would be practicing at home in my DAW, there would be an envelope filter that I would turn on sometimes, and I loved that it sounded so funny. So I got my hands on this pedal, but I didn't really have it for a while. It was capable, you can see on here that it's capable of doing different waveforms, and it has an EQ section, and it can also, turn into a phaser, but it was a bit too cheesy of a sound, and I'm not really in any projects that would benefit from having this pedal, but I just thought it would be fun to have for a little bit, so I only held on to this for like a month during the summer. So yeah, that's the bass envelope filter. Okay, wow. This pedal is so beautiful sound-wise. This is the Paragraphs by Fongon. And if you were to ask me if I would put this on a guitar pedal board, if I were rebuilding it, I would hesitate. Because it's such a beautiful sound, but it's a knob tweaker pedal. It's not really an always-on pedal. It can be. Technically, anything can be an always-on pedal. But you would really benefit by, playing around with this. It honestly sounds more like a synth. And I think the reason for it sounding so beautiful and synth-like is because it's kind of modeled to be a, it's like kind of more similar to a modular synthesis sort of setup than it is for guitar pedal, but I mean it is a guitar pedal. But anyways, I'm sure you're wondering, like, please tell me what the fuck it does instead of yapping about it. But anyways, it says it's a resonant low pass filter with waveform generator. Even after reading you that, I still don't really understand what that means. It honestly is more like a filter pedal that has a waveform generator, so it's just a very musical pedal that basically generates a signal that plays in conjunction with the input that resonates in high frequency range, and because of that, it sounds super freaking beautiful. It's so hard to talk about this pedal because it's so weird. You know, you really just have to look up a demo of this, but yeah, it's interesting, but not something I wanted to keep forever. It's definitely super cool though. Okay, this is also another synth adjacent style pedal. This is the Super Ego by EHX Electro Harmonics, and I had this maybe for like 2 months. I traded this for the Dunes, I remember, but it's basically a glissando pedal. It basically latches into the input signal and sustains it like a sustain pedal on a piano, and it holds that note or that chord you play, so you can sustain note voicings or chord voicings on top of each other to create like super big sound. It's really cool. But I thought it was a little too cheesy. That's kind of the theme with the stuff I do. If I feel it's too cheesy, I'm like, alright, let's get rid of this thing. Let's get rid of this thing. But it was still really cool. And yeah, let's move on. There's not much I have to say about this, and this video is already really long. Oh yeah, the kilter. So this is the Champion Leggy kilter. So I got this around end of 2022 maybe, and there's a lot of pedals in my collection. There's just like, girl, what are you doing? Why the fuck did you buy this? But I remember I bought this on the email listing. I signed up for the email listing because these motherfuckers were exclusive, like they didn't even officially drop yet. So I had to sign up for the email listing, and I bought it like on the first drop. And anyways, you're wondering what it does. So you can see it says loop A and loop B at those red knobs. You can basically plug in two effects loops that run in parallel. They run in parallel. So it's two effects loops that run at the same time, and you can blend between them, and the pedal will actually, it can sweep between them as well, as you can see with the sine wave right there. And you can actually change the waveforms and the time it takes. It's really cool if you wanted to blend two different crazy sounding effects loops, like two different modulation stages or two different pitches. You could, like, the combinations are literally endless with this pedal. And this was probably the peak. This was also at the peak of when I had a ton of pedals. I mean, this pedal is conducive to owning a pedal collection because you want to try out a whole bunch of different things. But I remember the Christmas of that year. That was when, I was buying stuff like crazy, and yeah, I'll get to that story in a little bit. It's coming up anyway. Oh, okay, well, I guess I'll talk about it now. So, this Christmas is when I got this, and it's also when I had that pitch delay pedal I talked about earlier. And at that time, I maybe had like 14 pedals, which was just a ridiculous amount when looking at it on my pedal board. Because it was like, I can't even use all these at the same time, and if I'm knob tweaking all the time to get the use out of these pedals, and I'm not using my hands to play the guitar. And then for that Christmas, my dad got me the Zoom G5N, which is this multi-effects pedal. And I remember thinking to myself, oh no, now I officially have too much, because I have a giant multi-effects board and my regular pedal board. But anyways, as I was messing around with this thing, I was like, wait a second, this actually solves all my problems, because all the effects I could ever need are on this thing in terms of reverb and modulation, not so much my compressor and my dirt section I wanted to keep as outboard gear, but all of the fun sounding stuff I was like, I'll just use this thing and sell everything else because I've been buying way too many pedals, you know. So I was very happy that I kind of got that wake up call from, you know, my dad didn't know, but the universe kind of told me. I was like, okay, Yvette, it's time to get rid of all your shit and go back to basics, return to function. So I was happy with this thing. I used this for a while afterwards because, I mean, there's like 250 pages that you can save your presets, and there's like, you know, I don't know, like 80 effects on there, and you can download more effects, but I was very happy with this. Oh yeah, and it also has the wah-wah pedal on the end. So yeah, let's move on. Okay, I think now we're getting into some utility adjacent stuff. So this is the Bass Octave Deluxe pedal by MXR, and I had this a long time ago. This was in the first pedal board that I put together along with them. It was in 2019. I had the Bass Octave Deluxe, the Old Blood Noise, Endeavor's Dark Star. What else was on there? I guess my DS1. Well, anyways, I think the Super Ego, and maybe the Loomer. It's like those 4 or 5, but yeah, I got this pedal because there's a demo of Yvette Young doing she's going through her pedal board, and this pedal is good for monophonic melodies. So basically, melodies that you're playing one note at a time, because it is not polyphonic. So if you play a chord with this pedal, the tracking on it cannot distinguish between each of the pitches. So you can only play one note at a time. But the thing is that one note would add a octave below, and it would sound super, super, super wide and girthy. Pause. Anyways, so yeah, this was cool. I held on to it for like 2 years. And then I was like, I'm not really getting much use out of this. So yeah. Next, what do we got? Oh yeah. So this is another pitch pedal. This is the TC Electronic Brainwaves, and I got this because you can actually use a program on your computer to upload different effects profiles to it, which I thought was really cool. And yeah, this was also around that Christmas that I talked about, where I realized I had way too many pedals. But I got this because you could do a lot of versatile things with like pitch stuff, like drops. You could do like whammy stuff. You could do like chorus effects, and you could. It says on there, voice 1 and voice 2. You could use 2 different voices in terms of one voice being tuned to an octave or a double octave, or you could create crazy chord voicings with one tuned to a 5th and another to like a 9th for some, if you want to get weird. It's funny that it actually doesn't have a 6th on here, because it's like, don't get too dissonant now, you freak. Anyways, so let's move on. Is there? Oh no. Okay, so that's the last of the pitch pedals. So now we're gonna talk about compressors, and we're getting towards the end of the collection. And I put all the utility pedals at the end because, one, you probably clicked off the video by now, or you've fallen asleep. I don't know. But I actually wanted to put the compressors at the very start of the video because they're very, very important. They're very important. Yeah, they're important because they go at the very start of your chain, and they determine what your signal is going to sound like going into the rest of your pedal board. So this is the very first compressor I got. It's very popular. It's only like $100. It's pretty cheap, and it's a optical compressor. And there's also dip switches on the inside if you take off the back plate to mess with the ADSR some more. But you know, I actually still own this. My guitarist is borrowing it. But what can I say about this? I mean, it served its purpose. To be honest, like I definitely had to upgrade after holding on to it for like 3 or 4 years because the attack on this compressor, because it's analog, it's an audible attack, so you can kind of hear a pop when you first strum a really hard chord, but then after that it will normalize. But you know, that was always something I had to work around in the recording process. Like if I had to record something, I would have to make sure the first signal input was like I would start strumming and then hit record rather than hit record and then start strumming. I don't know if you understand what I'm talking about, but whatever. Yeah, let's move on to the next guitar compressor that I had, and this is the EQT Wardens. I love this thing. If I were to recreate my guitar pedal board, this is 100% going back on there. And that is because I am a huge fan of math rock, and the band John and also Yvette Young, they both use the EQT Warden, and it's one of the compressor styles that is not as transparent. It actually brightens your tone a bit up, and you can see that there's a high and low boost. I mean, it's just one tone knob, but this one right here, when you crank it, it makes your playing sound super pronounced. So it's a very colorful compressor, which isn't as common. But yeah, I love this thing so much. My only gripe about it is that it does pick up a little bit of noise. And that's because the circuit board is actually converting from 9 volts to 18 volts on the inside. It's a 9 volt input, but it's converting to 18 volts. So in theory, there should be more headroom, but it does introduce a little bit of electrical noise, I found in my experience. But I would still use this thing. I remember I had a little jam session with one of my classmates, and they used it for a little bit, and they loved it. But yeah, let's move on. So this is the bass compressor that I'm using now, and it has a lot of features. I mean, I paid a lot of money for it, so it better. But no, I'm kidding. But you know, you see on the side it has the input and gain reduction LED notifiers, as your classic input-output ADSR attack and release, and your mix knob, and your ratio switch, and this is also a mid and low, or mid cut or mid boost. I think this picture is actually, oh no, this is Mark II. Interesting. I don't think this is the bass compressor though, because it would say bass right there, as you can see, kinda, on my camera. It says bass right there, but it's way too dark, you can't really see. Anyways, so yeah, this is the Empress bass compressor, which I love. It sounds super clean. You can barely tell it's on, which is a good thing. So yeah. And then this is the bass preamp that's also on my pedal board. I mean, there's not much I need to say about this. As you can see, you have your mid-frequency tuning knob in the middle, so you can sweep between 250 to 1000 hertz and boost that mid, which is what I use to pronounce my sound and cut through the mix of the band. And it also has a direct out if I ever need to go into direct out for, you know, the house PA or a sub, or if I need a direct out for recording into an interface. So yeah, that's nice. And then finally, we have the looper, or I mean there's a couple more, but anyways, this is the Ditto looper. I actually had 2 of these at once, because I had one at the beginning of my chain and the end of my chain. And the reason for that is because if you put one at the beginning of your chain, But if you have a looper at the end of your chain, then it will record all of the process signal. And these things are pretty cheap. I mean, I got 2 of them for 100, so like 1 for 50. And, honestly, in this day and age, there's probably even cheaper loopers, but when I got into the game, like, it was $50 was really fucking cheap anyways, so yeah, that's the Ditto looper. The only downside of these guys is if you unplug it, it will lose your loop, which is why I like this 9-track looper, because after I unplug the board to, go to another gig or some shit, all of my loops are saved. Okay, so this is the Red Panda Tensor, which is also a looper, but it's a granular looper. And if you're a producer, then you might understand what granular synthesis or granular processing is. But if you don't know what that is, it's basically you can record a loop and chop it up into very fine slices and create a very, ambient or choppy soundscape. I didn't really have this for too long. What? Yeah. I forgot about this guy. This is so funny. Okay, so this is the Teacock mini glitch. This is the other pedal in my collection that I had to get on a mailing list on, because these are, I don't know if they're rare nowadays, but when I got it like 3 or 4 years ago, they were extremely rare. And basically, it's just a latching foot switch where when you step on it, it will sample the last couple seconds of what you've played, and play a glitch version of it, like looping back and forth, or you can change the sample size with that knob on the left there to determine how much it's repeating or how much of the section it's sampling and stuff like that. So yeah, I didn't really use or have this for a long time, because this is one of those pedals that you would rather use live, and I wasn't playing live at this point because COVID was around. So I just kind of had it to mess around. And I sold it for a pretty penny. Anyways, next. Oh yeah, so this is just the 9-track looper I have over here with the sticker on top. Something I didn't talk about in my rig rundown is that these buttons, you can actually reverse the loop, so you can play in reverse, or there's a half speed button, so you can play the loop and at 50% speed and it sounds pitched down, which is kind of cool. I don't really use those functions too often, but if you were a knob tweaker, I'm sure you would enjoy those buttons. Next. Okay, so we're getting to the end now. So this is actually the Saturn Works AB pedal. And this is actually different from what I have. So I'll show you what I have. As you can kind of see, I know it's hard to see now because the sun has set, but this is actually a blue, pink, and white. This is a trans colorway of the planet Saturn. And he did not sell it like that. I asked him to make it like this. And I'm pretty sure he's in California, and this guy makes so many utility pedals that he's made a business out of it, and he will make you any custom utility pedal. It's fucking awesome. But anyways, so this pedal is essentially it's an ABY signal splitter. So I put my input into the bottom, and I can send it out to 2 different areas. I can send it left and I can send it right. And the reason that I got this pedal was because I mentioned them earlier in the video, but 6 of the band Morning Dew, they that band is a 2-piece. It's just the drummer Steve, I believe, and 6, who does guitar and vocals, so they have no bases. And I think for a little bit while they were playing live shows, Six would send their guitar output to a Y splitter, and then it would go to a bass cab and a guitar cab, which I thought was really fucking cool. So, for a couple years I had both a guitar and bass cab. Right? I mean, they were both solid state combo amps that I had in my room, but it was a stack of one on top of the other, and I would send one signal to the bass amp, and I would send one signal to the guitar amp, which would make the sound super, super beefy, which I thought was really cool. So yeah, I mean, I don't play guitar as much anymore, so I don't really have a use case for this pedal, but I would never, ever, ever get rid of it because it's fucking, even the LEDs, you know what, I guess I can plug it in right now. Let's do this. Even the LEDs are pink. Oh my god, that blue is insanely bright, but it's pink and blue LEDs. And pink and blue trans. I mean, why the fuck would I ever sell this? This is a one of one, whatever. Okay, and then this should be the final pedal. Oh, second to last. So this is just a SaturnWorks expression pedal. So basically what this does, it takes a TRS cable, not a TS cable, but it takes a TRS cable, and you plug it into the expression input of a pedal, such as the mood. And basically when you plug that cable in and you press the foot switch on this, it sends a electrical signal from this expression pedal into your main pedal, and that electrical signal will, it can determine a lot of things. It can control like a ramping input of one of the settings on the knobs. I mean, the possibilities are endless depending on what pedal you plug into, but it's just a utility pedal that can be used for anything. But yeah, I mean, it's not on my board right now, but it's just handy to have. And then finally, yeah, this is the final one. Oh my god, this video is so fucking long. Are you kidding me? Okay, this is the this is just a tuner. I didn't put any specific one on the page because these are a dime a dozen, the tuner pedal. They're all fairly cheap and they're all fairly small, so I just have this one on the end. Because I have a headless bass. And I need something to tune because you gotta stay in tune. If you're not in tune, I can tell and I'm gonna go fucking crazy. So yeah, I mean that's all my pedals. That's nearly 40. I know it might be technically like somewhere between like 37 and 38, but I'm counting it as 40 because I've had a couple of these pedals multiple times, and I'm sure I'll get more pedals in the future. I mean, look at me, man. I'm a fucking fiend, man. I'm a fucking freak. I'm over here. Okay, anyways. Yeah, that's the end of the video. That's the end of the video. If you're awake and you watched this whole thing, thank you. You're also a freak for watching this whole thing. But thank you for listening to me yap, because I don't have a lot of opportunities to yap about my pedal collection over the years, No one wants to hear about every single one, but this video is for that purpose. And I have a couple more video ideas, but I think the only one I'm gonna do next is like talking about my physical music collection, because I have a decent amount of vinyl